If you've ever felt like your entire value depended on what you could offer people, if you've ever cried silently because someone made you feel like a burden, if you've ever replayed a comment in your mind that hurt your heart more than anyone knows, then this is your moment of awakening. Not loud. Not dramatic. Soft, quiet, internal. The moment you realize, I deserve a life where I'm not scared, not controlled, not dependent on the wrong people. There is a type of emotional pain many women hide behind smiles. The pain of being needed but never supported. The pain of doing everything for everyone and receiving nothing back. The pain of having responsibilities but no freedom. The pain of having a heart full of love but no one who truly protects it. The pain of wanting to feel safe in someone's presence, but instead feeling judged or belittled. You learn to hold your tears until the night. You learn to swallow your words because speaking makes things worse. You learn to hide your fears because no one takes them seriously. You learn to pretend you're fine because being emotional is seen as weakness. And slowly, quietly, you begin to disappear inside yourself. Not physically. Emotionally. You stop laughing the way you used to. You start shrinking in conversations. You start giving up on dreams because someone told you they were unrealistic. You start feeling guilty for wanting even basic comfort. You start believing that, maybe this is my life. But deep inside, somewhere under the exhaustion, under the sadness, under the guilt, under the silence, there is still a version of you that refuses to give up. A version of you who still wants more. A version of you who knows she deserves respect. A version who whispers, "Please don't forget me. Please choose me." And that voice, that tiny whisper, is where independence begins. It begins when you stop blaming yourself for how others treated you. It begins the moment you realize that being taken for granted is not your fate. It begins when you start questioning the lies you were told. You can't survive alone. You need someone to support you. You don't have the ability. You're too sensitive. You're too emotional. You're not strong enough. These lies break women more deeply than heartbreak ever will. But something powerful happens when a woman finally gets tired of believing lies. She starts healing. She starts looking at herself with new eyes. She starts remembering who she used to be before the world told her to shrink. And this is the quiet beginning of emotional independence. You start noticing small things. How your mood depends too much on someone's reply. How your self-worth changes with someone's attitude. How easily you lose yourself trying to keep peace. How much you bend just to avoid conflict. How deeply you crave reassurance because you've never had consistent love. These realizations hurt, but they free you. You begin to understand. You were never weak. You were never incapable. You were never unworthy. You were simply surrounded by people who wanted you dependent so they could feel powerful. And here's the part no one talks about. Independence starts with pain. With disappointment. With heartbreak. With exhaustion. With that one moment where you think, I can't keep living like this. That is your rebirth. A soft rebellion. A silent rise. A deep shift that happens inside your chest. You start choosing silence over arguments. Distance over drama. Healing over chasing. Self-respect over one-sided love. Your own future over temporary comfort. You become softer with yourself, not others. More forgiving with your heart, not your boundaries. More loving to your soul, not to people who don't deserve it. Because independence is not about becoming cold. It's about finally warming yourself. It's not about pushing people away. It's about not collapsing when they walk away. It's not about proving anything. It's about becoming someone no one can break again. And in this quiet shift, your entire identity changes. Your voice becomes stronger. Your silence becomes meaningful. Your eyes see things more clearly. Your heart becomes wiser. Your soul becomes grounded. You don't explode. You evolve. And one day, you wake up and realize the girl who cried in secret has transformed into a woman who holds herself through every storm. This is where your independence begins. Inside your heart. Inside your mind. Inside your story. Quiet. Soft. Unshakable. There is a kind of strength that people don't see. The kind that grows quietly inside you after you've been disappointed too many times. The kind that forms after you've cried enough nights to finally understand your own breaking points. The kind that rises when you realize no one is coming to save you and maybe you don't need them to. Emotional independence doesn't happen because you want it. It happens because you're tired. Tired of being the one who always fixes things. Tired of being the emotional support for people who never support you back. Tired of begging for clarity, honesty, consistency, and receiving silence in return. It starts the day you decide that you will no longer wait for someone else to regulate your emotions. You stop waiting for an apology to heal. You stop waiting for a message to feel valued. You stop waiting for someone to change so you can feel secure. You stop waiting for people to treat you right just because you treat them right. You start choosing yourself because others never did it consistently. You begin holding yourself gently when something hurts instead of falling apart. You begin calming your own anxiety instead of reaching out to someone who replies when they feel like it. You begin giving yourself the affection you've been begging for. You begin trusting your intuition rather than someone's excuses. Your heart becomes smarter. Your mind becomes clearer. Your soul becomes more selective. You stop oversharing with people who don't know how to hold your vulnerability. You stop seeking validation from people who don't even understand themselves. You stop explaining your worth to those who don't value truth or loyalty. You stop expecting love from people who only know how to take. You begin to realize that peace is not a place. It's a version of you. A version of you who no longer reacts instantly. A version who sits with her emotions without feeling ashamed. A version who can have a bad day without needing someone to fix it. A version who understands that her healing is her responsibility, not anyone else's. Slowly, your emotional world becomes stronger. Cleaner. More stable. You're no longer destroyed by someone ignoring you. You're no longer shaken when someone leaves. You're no longer devastated by a postponed reply. You're no longer controlled by someone's mood swings. You become centered. Not cold. Not distant. Just centered. Your reactions change. You start saying it's okay and actually meaning it, not to please them, but because you know you can handle your own feelings. You stop arguing to prove points that don't matter to people who don't want to understand. You walk away from situations that disturb your peace instead of fighting for them to make sense. You choose silence not because you're weak, but because you're wise. Your boundaries become quiet but firm. Your standards become high but peaceful. Your expectations become low but healthy. Your self-respect becomes non-negotiable. You stop chasing love. You attract it through your energy. And you don't entertain love that hurts more than it heals. You stop tolerating mixed signals. You stop staying where you feel confused. You stop fighting for people who don't fight for you. You stop giving your loyalty to those who treat it like an option. And the more you detach from emotional dependence, the more you return to yourself. You realize you are no longer the girl who panics when someone pulls away. You are no longer the girl who weakens when someone raises their voice. You are no longer the girl who waits for closure that never comes. You are no longer the girl who forgets herself in the process of loving someone else. You become a woman who knows her worth in silence. A woman who can cry without falling apart. A woman who can love without losing herself. A woman who can stand alone without feeling lonely. A woman who is soft, but unshakable, gentle, but firm, loving, but strong. And here's the truth. Emotional independence doesn't make you harder to love. It makes you harder to manipulate. It doesn't make you cold. It makes you clear. It doesn't make you distant. It makes you selective. It doesn't make you selfish. It makes you safe. You begin to understand the difference between being alone and being peaceful. You begin to understand the difference between giving up and letting go. You begin to understand the difference between love and attachment. You begin to understand the difference between being wanted and being valued. And slowly, without anyone noticing, you rise into a version of yourself that you once needed desperately. You become your own safe space. Your own emotional support. Your own voice of reason. Your own healer. You no longer fear losing people. You fear losing yourself, and that fear saves you every time. You don't break when life gets heavy. You bend, but you don't break. You feel, but you don't collapse. You hurt, but you heal yourself. You love, but you don't abandon yourself again. This is emotional independence. The kind that turns a girl into a woman into a force, and a force into someone no one can shake. There comes a moment in every woman's life where she realizes something painfully important. Emotional independence feels incomplete without financial independence. Because no matter how strong your heart becomes, you will always feel a little unsafe. If your survival depends on people who don't value your sacrifices. Money isn't everything. But the lack of it creates a kind of fear that scars women deeply. The fear of asking. The fear of being judged. The fear of hearing, "You owe me." The fear of losing your dignity. The fear of staying in places you've outgrown because you have no choice. This fear grows quietly over time. You feel it when someone questions every small thing you spend. You feel it when your choices are criticized because you don't contribute enough. You feel it when someone reminds you of everything they do financially for you. You feel it when you hesitate before buying something you genuinely need. This is money trauma, the invisible weight women carry silently. But something shifts the day you say, "I want to earn not because I'm greedy, but because I'm tired of feeling powerless." Financial independence doesn't start with money. It starts with a decision. I deserve a life where I don't feel scared, guilty, or controlled. You begin learning something small, a skill, a craft, a talent, anything. Maybe you're not perfect at it. Maybe the beginning feels slow. Maybe you doubt yourself every day. But you still show up. Because you finally understand this truth. When a woman makes her own money, her entire personality changes. Her voice becomes stable. Her choices become bold. Her heart becomes peaceful. Her future becomes hers. You stop being scared of standing alone. You stop being scared of losing people. You stop being scared of starting over. You stop being scared of anyone saying, "You can't do anything without me." Because guess what? You can. And you will. Even earning a small amount feels like freedom. Because it isn't the amount that matters. It's the independence behind it. You buy something for yourself with your own money. And it feels different. You support yourself even a little. And it feels powerful. You save a small amount. And it feels safe. You look at your efforts and realize, I am building the life I always wished someone would give me. Suddenly, you walk differently. Not arrogantly, confidently. Not loudly, calmly. Not to impress, but because you finally trust yourself. You stop waiting for approval to chase your goals. You stop hiding your dreams because they seem too big. You stop accepting the idea that life will only be good if someone else provides for you. You stop shrinking in conversations about money. You stop feeling ashamed of wanting financial stability. Because wanting to earn isn't greed. It's self-respect. And slowly, quietly, you start building stability. You learn how to manage your emotions and your finances. You understand the power of skills. You understand the security of savings. You understand how beautiful it feels to buy something without guilt. You understand the peace that comes from not depending on unpredictable people. Financial independence becomes a form of self-love. Not glamorous. Not loud. Not always fast. But steady and life-changing. It is the moment where you finally tell yourself, I don't want to survive. I want to live. You begin creating opportunities instead of waiting for them. You begin trusting the process instead of doubting yourself. You begin investing in your growth instead of apologizing for your dreams. And something magical happens. Your emotional independence and your financial independence merge. You become whole. Complete. Balanced. Untouchable. Not because you have everything figured out, but because you finally believe you can figure it out. And that belief? That quiet, calm, unshakable belief in yourself? That is the foundation of a woman who will never again be controlled by fear, dependency, or guilt. A woman who builds her own life cannot be broken by anyone. There comes a moment in every woman's life when everything suddenly becomes clear. Not because someone saved her. Not because someone finally treated her right. Not because life suddenly became easy. But because she changed, quietly, slowly, day by day, until she became someone she could rely on. You reach a point where you look at everything you survived. Every heartbreak you carried on your own. Every disappointment that forced you to grow. Every moment you felt lost. Every tear you wiped alone. And you realize. You didn't break. You evolved. You stopped trying to convince people to see your worth. You stopped begging for bare minimum effort. You stopped blaming yourself for things that were never your fault. You stopped believing you needed someone else to feel complete. You stopped expecting others to understand the storms you've walked through. And in that quiet shift, you became mentally untouchable. You start handling life with a calm strength that surprises even you. Things that once made you cry now make you think. Things that once scared you now feel small. Things that once broke you now feel like lessons. Things that once made you anxious now seem irrelevant. You no longer respond to disrespect, you remove yourself from it. You no longer wait for someone to choose you, you choose yourself first. You no longer tolerate emotional chaos, you protect your peace before anything else. You no longer react to every small thing, you conserve your energy for what truly matters. You no longer chase anyone, you know who belongs in your life will never need to be chased. Your silence becomes stronger than your arguments. Your distance becomes louder than your explanations. Your peace becomes more important than proving your point. You begin to realize that not everyone deserves access to you. Your softness. Your care. Your time. Your loyalty. Your love. Your presence. You become selective, not because you're arrogant, but because you finally understand the value of your heart. And in this new version of yourself, you see the beauty of your journey differently. All those moments you felt weak were actually the moments you were building strength. All those days you felt unappreciated were the days you learned not to depend on validation. All those nights you cried alone were the nights you taught yourself how to survive. All those times you felt abandoned were the moments you learned to stand on your own feet. You didn't lose in life, you learned. You didn't fail, you transformed. You didn't break, you rebuilt. You didn't fall behind, you were being prepared. And now, this new version of you is not harder. She is calmer. Not colder. Just wiser. Not emotionless. Just more aware of who deserves her emotions. You forgive differently. You love differently. You trust differently. You choose differently. You understand that you cannot control how people treat you. But you can control how long you allow them to affect you. You understand that the world doesn't always give you what you deserve. So you learn to give it to yourself. You understand that your past didn't break you. It shaped you into a woman capable of standing on her own. And maybe the most beautiful part of your transformation is this. You are no longer afraid of losing people. You are only afraid of losing yourself again. Your peace is your priority. Your growth is your responsibility. Your future is your creation. Your self-worth is your foundation. Your independence is your freedom. And one day sooner than you think, you will look at your life and realize you became the woman you always needed. You became the woman you prayed to become. You became the woman who didn't quit on herself, even when everyone else quit on her. You became the woman who didn't collapse, even when the world felt heavy. You became the woman who built a new life from the pieces of the old one. You became the woman who can stand alone and still feel complete. This is your glow up. Not the clothes. Not the looks. Not the attention. But the peace, the healing, the strength, the independence, the self-love. The version of you that no one can take away. You didn't just survive. You rose. Silently. Softly. Powerfully. Unshakably. And that is what makes you truly independent.